Welcome to the first edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline. I'm Al Levine, one of your hosts. We have a great show for you. We have 4 co-hosts here, and we're going to start it off with one of our co-hosts, Mike Migliori. Take it away, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Migliori. I was lying in my birdcage with the Post-Gazette sports page because that's basically all it's good for. And as I was doing that, I noticed a column from Ron Cook. Ron Cook said a couple of days ago that all you Penguin fans were classless morons. And he said that Aram Asham was also a classless player because of a fight between Asham and Beagle from the Washington Capitals. Well, let me tell you what, Ron. Beagle from the Capitals started the fight. First, he cross-checked Chris Letang a couple of times. Asham went to Letang's defense, and Beagle dropped the gloves. I don't care if he's a rookie. I don't care if he's been playing for 100 years. Drop the gloves, you drop the gloves. You drop the gloves with Aaron Asham, you're probably going to get beat up. Asham clocked the guy, hit him a couple of times in the jaw, and knocked him out. But Asham's not a classless player because he held on to Beagle's jersey and lowered him to the ice. As he skated away, he made a symbol just like that to say, yeah, I knocked the guy out. But you know what? That was something from a WWE wrestler named CM Punk that Asham saw it from, and he threw that signal out there. Not necessarily classless. And yeah, the fans, they cheered during the fight, and when Beagle was knocked out, they cheered a little bit more, but they also gave him an ovation when he stood up and skated away. Ron, if you want to see some real classless fans, come to the North Side with me some Sunday, where I can find 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 drunks that'll tell you it's okay to rape a young girl as long as you win a couple of Super Bowls. That's classless.
All right, enough from Mike Migliori. We have our second co-host, Smoking Jim Frazier.
Hey.
Take it away, Jim.
Thank you very much, Al. I'm just going to be very brief today. I'm very excited about being in this community. One of the greatest high school football teams that I've ever had an opportunity to cover, and I'm an NFL scout, was a few years ago when Bethel Park won the WPIAL. Most of the student athletes on that team did things right. A lot of the students were either 4.0 or better students, and that leads me to maybe the greatest athlete of our time in southwestern Pennsylvania, Jeanette's own, Ohio State's own Terrell Pryor. This is a guy who maybe would have been a Heisman Trophy candidate this year. Got into a lot of trouble by bending the rules. He was able to be drafted in the 3rd round in the supplemental draft, but as fate would have it, Terrell Pryor now will be sitting on the bench in Oakland for a long time. The Oakland Raiders traded their next 2 first-round picks for Carson Palmer, bringing him back to the Bay Area. And so, I just want everybody out there to know, do the right thing. Also, on a sad note, one of my best friends is from this community. The Hammer, Armin, the Hammer Gilliam, 13-year NBA superstar, UNLV's single-season all-time leading scorer, passed away. He was a very dear friend of mine. And lastly, I think Roger Goodell, again, dropped the ball. I think that Jim Harbaugh and the coach for the Detroit Lions really should have been heavily fined, maybe not so much Harbaugh, but it almost incited a riot. A friend of mine that used to play for the Pitt Panthers, Demetrius Gore, who's from Detroit, told me that when you're in Detroit and you don't have 2 guns, you're underdressed. And that really could have, the players were starting to put their helmets on. It looked like almost a combat zone. You was going into the tunnels where the fans could have been throwing batteries or whatnot. I think Roger Goodell, who hasn't played anything other than competitive tiddlywinks, I think he dropped the ball big time. I think that the coach for the Detroit Lions should have been suspended and possibly even fired.
Thanks, Jim. We'll go to Brian Weinberg.
Hi, I just want to touch base on what he was saying right there, actually. Detroit is actually the city also that had the NBA scuffle, the mayhem, the brawl, things got out of control. So I really You're right on point. Roger Goodell really dropped the ball there. He's all about finding players like James Harrison for hits that should be legal. And, for instance, Troy Polamalu got a concussion this week and was seen on the sidelines on the cell phone talking to his wife, letting her know he was okay. Just found out on the car ride over here, I heard that he got a $25,000 fine for that. Now, you have two grown men, Jim Schwartz and Jim Harbaugh, on the field almost fighting on national television where all kids watch this, and neither one of these guys gets a fine. But Troy answers a cell phone call from his wife and gets 25 G's thrown off the bank, So it's a little bit ridiculous. I got to come on, man, to Roger Goodell. Come on, man.
Thanks,
Thank God for Troy. He's got the $1 million contract on his hair, the insurance. So the 25 G shouldn't hurt him out too bad there. So that's really all I got there for today. But
Okay, I'll take it from here. I have a couple little things to talk about. One is called Pitt and a high-octane offense. I was there on Saturday. A friend of mine called me up, and we had great seats. And that was the extent of the game. The high-octane offense, I know the players aren't there for Coach Graham right now, and I've been a Pitt fan for a long time, amongst being a sports fan in Pittsburgh. Now, you don't have the players. You have a great running back who would have been a great running back with or without the high-octane offense. Now, running these players every 10, 20 seconds, some of them are as big as houses. They were for a grind-em-out game, like Wannstedt had there. So enough of that. Let's move on. Let's get Pitt back to the basics, get your players in for next year, and give it a go. All right, we're going to show an interview that we had. Julie Griffin and I interviewed Coach Jeff Matheny from Bethel Park last week before the homecoming game, and we'd like to show you that little video clip if we can.
I'm Al Levine with Julie Griffin here, and Coach Matheny's here on homecoming week, and we'd like to ask him a few questions on what it looks like for the game this weekend.
Well, Mount Lebanon has been an excellent team for quite a few years. They got a lot of good players. They're real stout up front. We're coming off a good win against Canemak and put two together. So we're looking for a good fight here on homecoming. Hopefully we can stand up to their big guys and slow their tail back down a little bit.
What would you say was your key to the success in 2008, and what kinds of things are you trying to imply from the 2008 year and bring it into this year so that we can have another year like that?
Well, we got a little bit different team than at that point in time. No question, we had a great run. The following year we had some great players, and they did a tremendous job. We have the same coaches. Our system's pretty much the same. The attitude from the coaches is pretty much the same. These kids have worked real hard. We fought through a lot of adversity. I'm proud of them, the way they're fighting. But we're just trying to slow Mount Lebanon down and get a couple turnovers and stay in the game. If we do that, we think we have a good chance.
So you're getting the momentum going. All right, awesome.
No question.
All right.
Well, being undefeated does help this time, and maybe that'll bring some momentum for the Upper St. Clair game that you have coming up too. Or you don't want to think of that yet, Coach?
Well, it's a conference game right now. We're 2-0 in the league, and that's as good as you can be. So we're really concentrating on Mount Lebanon. It's always a big game for us. Our kids know their kids. They're real fundamental. They do a great job and have a good staff. But we want to just stay positive and keep gaining some experience. Make a few plays and stay in the game until the second half, and hopefully we can make a play and win the game.
What are some other games that you're looking forward to for this season?
Well, St. Clair's right after that, but for us right now, it's just, you hate to say it, but it's one game at a time. It's this week. We've had some injuries and that sort of thing we're fighting through, but, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to battle, get better, keep the program going. One thing I will say, our kicking game's been real strong, and our punter's excellent. Spiegel's done a really nice job. Danny Christian's done a nice job. So that'll keep us in some field position if we can slow Hagee down.
Would you say that fans are definitely a driving force for you guys?
Well, I sure hope so. On homecoming, I hope our student body gets behind us, and it's an exciting time for them, and we'll see what happens on the field.
Well, Coach, we'd like to thank you for your time on this busy week, and we'll see you in the future then. And good luck on the game.
Thanks a lot, and I hope the show kicks off well, and I look forward to working with you again. Thanks, Coach.
Good luck.
We'd like to thank Coach Matheny from Bethel Park High School. I'm Al Levine.
And I'm Julie Griffin, and this is Pittsburgh Sports Line.
We want to again thank Coach Matheny for his interview. And the update on the game, as most of you know, was Luke Hagee had a hell of a game, and they did beat Bethel Park 14-3. With this week, we wish Coach Matheny a win on Friday night with Upper St. Clair. It's senior night, and good luck to you guys. On this segment, we'd like to talk about the Steelers a little bit, and we'll start with Mike.
Well, like I told you before, the Steelers are not going to the playoffs this year. I think they may finish maybe around 8-8, 9-7. Figure Baltimore to win the division. Cincinnati probably to come in second in the division. And yeah, I know it's a terrible thing to say, but you know what? You can't win without an offensive line. It's great to have a $110 million quarterback. You might want to protect him with, I don't know, more than a 10-cent offensive line. Every housewife knows the first check you write for the mortgage. The second check you write for insurance. When you write the check for the mortgage on the quarterback, you better get some insurance in an offensive line. How bad is the offensive line? Well, they just re-signed Max Starks, a guy who at the beginning of the year they felt couldn't play with such great offensive linemen as Trey Essex. Okay? So if Max Stark couldn't make the team then, what is he good for now?
Mike.
No, but Jim knows a lot more about the Steelers than I do. He knows them personally.
Yeah, I got to kind of disagree with you a little bit, Mike. I agree with everything that you said, but I really believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers will make the playoff this year for two reasons. One, they got the weakest schedule ever seen for a team that went to the Super Bowl previous year. And number two, Magnificent Seven, Ben Roethlisberger. Guy's just a winner. He knows how to, he's the cardiac kid. He knows how to manipulate the game in the fourth quarter and do a good job and win. With the weak schedule and the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati's, they'll fall apart the second half with a rookie quarterback. So I look for the Pittsburgh Steelers to, again, make the playoffs this year.
I want to interrupt here a little bit. He started bringing up Max Starks. I had a little bet with Mike that he would do a lot better than what they had in there. In the last two games, there has been an improvement. Whether he stands in the way or whatever, we do have a little time to toss the ball. And we have been to the Super Bowl with a couple subpar offensive lines. The coaches get some kudos from me for working magic with a line that is subpar. So I wish them the best of luck, and I think they're getting to the playoffs also. I agree with Smoking Jim here. And we've got Brian waiting in the wings to jump on the Steeler bandwagon, so let's go.
Yeah, well, I'm on the bandwagon. I've never been off. I pretty much go through this, seems like every year, where Steelers struggle a little bit in the beginning of the year. Everybody jumps off the bandwagon, starts hating Ben. Let's trade Ben. Let's get rid of him, blah, blah, blah. It's just a bunch of nonsense. If you're a true fan of the game, you know Ben is our key cornerstone that we must keep. And like Mike said, protect. We need some insurance. I mean, we got 7 draft picks next year, right? I'm already thinking of next year, okay? 7 draft picks, 5 linemen, 2 corners, okay? We don't need any other position. Just draft me a whole new offensive line and throw in a couple corners to help Mike out a little bit. But, I mean, I'm in agreement. We got the weakest schedule I've seen in the history of me ever following the Steelers. I can't imagine us not making the playoffs as a wild card. Unfortunately for us, I'm a little more realistic. I think we're a one-and-done team. We're going to end up with thrashing them by the Patriots in the first round or something like that. Because our defense is a little bit older than people want to admit, and I'm one of those people. I actually drafted the Steelers defense on my fantasy squad this year, which really was not a very good idea, especially when I took them way early in front of Calvin Johnson. So, so I'm in agreement. 3 out of 4, I say the Steelers make the playoffs this year. I'm not going off the bandwagon yet, and I'm going to give the credit to Ben and the weak schedule.
And Al was talking about Upper St. Clair playing Bethel Park. 2 years ago, I wanted a linebacker from Upper St. Clair that played at Penn State, Sean Lee. I thought he would be a perfect fit in the 3-4 defense, but the Pittsburgh Steelers went off the board and drafted a project, Jason Worilds. I wonder how that's working out for them. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are winning because of Bill Cowher players. You look at all their all-pro players, they're all Bill Cowher players, and once they start getting old and retire, Pittsburgh Steelers might turn into the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Wow. One more quick thing I can
Go
just
ahead,
add. I didn't really realize how old the Steelers defense really was. I wanted to believe they were still young until late last night. I'm watching the AFC Championship game against the Denver Broncos, if you can remember it, at Mile High, where Ben runs it in. We go on to beat the Seahawks in the Super Bowl at Detroit. But, man, I just started seeing all these players. I'm like, every one of these guys still starts for us, pretty much. You got Ike out there. You got Troy out there. Farrier. You got all these guys. They're all out there still. So, I mean, something's got to give eventually. Hopefully it's not this year, though.
Now, first, again, I don't think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. I think you guys are wrong. But let me tell you where else you're wrong. They also don't have the weakest schedule in the league this year because Baltimore plays all the same teams. Plus, they get to play the Steelers twice.
True.
So, but Jim touched on another sore subject here in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Pirates have the nicest baseball stadium in the league, and that's about the best thing I can think to say about them. They do absolutely nothing every year to improve the team. Even last year they needed a new manager and they brought in Clint Hurdle. Clint Hurdle's a nice manager, I guess. He did do well with another smaller market team 1 year. But he comes to Pittsburgh with a losing record, and that's what Pittsburgh keeps bringing in. Managers with losing records, pitchers with losing records. One time, bring in somebody that's a winner. If you continue to build a culture of losing, you continue to lose. And as far as the ownership, well, as long as there's a luxury tax in baseball, Nutting is never going to sell the team because that's where he makes all his money. The next collective bargaining agreement, if the luxury tax goes away, well, then Nutting will sell the team. He'd sell it to me for what I have in my pocket right now. But they're not going to get rid of the team as long as there's a luxury tax in place. But that's going to change sometime soon. There's guys that we've heard that were interested in the team, Mark Cuban and Mario Lemieux. Yeah, these guys are winners. Sell the team to them and see what happens.
Mike, I have to agree on you with that 19 years of losing. And then they give us a little, I call it SOB, the same old box. and what happened is they fool us again, even myself temporarily, and I won another bet because I said they'll go back to the same old Buck standard and they'll be a losing team. And it was great going to a few games, seeing the excitement, having sellout crowds. But again, it's empowering the owner of the Pirates to keep the same old Bucks. And that's a sad thing that we have going on here. I do remember the glory days and the championships and all these good things. And I know we're on a lot of negative things here, but we're looking for some positivity with the Pirates, and I just don't see it this year coming up either.
Well, I tell you what, you have to be proud of the Pirates. They're in the Guinness Book of World Records, man. 19 and
the longest losing streak in history in any sports.
But here's the problem that I have with the media here. During the first half of the season, you think that Clint Hurdle was the greatest thing since sliced bread. They were actually comparing, and a lot of the sports writers here in this town were saying that maybe he was the better coach out of all the professional teams. Maybe the Pittsburgh Passion had a better head coach than him. Jim. But then when they faced adversity, and he went into a shell. He lost the team after the 19-inning game. They faced adversity and lost, and I agree with Magic Mike. I would eat that contract right now and bring somebody in.
But again, they have a history of bringing these guys in that, like Mike says again, that they're not successful. They're getting washed-up players. They're not improving the team. They do have some nice core young players, but that's not enough to be a winning team here in Pittsburgh. And that's our biggest problem here.
Well, when they hired Hurdle, they had a list of guys that they could have chose from. They had Tony Pena, who would have been my personal choice, Phil Garner. These guys have won, and they have winning records. Right? That's the way you go. If you look back at the past coaches, first, Lloyd McClendon never hit 300 in his life, and they made him the batting coach. He never coached anybody to hit 300 in his life, so they made him the manager. If he'd have lost 100 games one more time, they'd have probably made him general manager.
But Mike, he threw a nice base.
Well,
You got to give him credit. He gave a nice base at that
After
stadium.
him, they went to the guy from the Dodgers. He went into the Dodgers. They were they played in the World Series. When he left, they were playing under 400. So they brought him in here, and now they got Clint Hurdle in here. I mean, there's no way to say that they're trying to improve the team. They don't get pitchers that have winning records. They trade for guys that have losing records. They bring in managers and coaches with losing records. When you build, like I said before, when you build a culture of losing, you're going to lose. You have to change that somehow. So, that's just the way it's going to be for
I
for the rest of
understand
this
that, and
guy's tenure.
it's frustrating for the rest of us that are Pirate fans. I still am a fan. It's just I don't like to see the product that they have out on the field. It is a sad state of affairs there, and we do hope that they can improve it.
I'm a Pirate fan too. I understand. I mean, I've been going to see the Pirates all my life, longer than I've been going to see the Steelers or the Penguins even. But, I mean, shortly after, well, first, Jim will tell you that I told a viewing audience when they were up by 2 games, or in first place by 2 games, that they would not finish the season under, over 500. They would definitely be under 500 again. Because the pitching at the beginning of the season, the pitching carried them. But their pitchers aren't that good, so they had to come back down to earth eventually, and the bats were never hitting all year long. So they had no way to stay with what they were doing. And it's a shame because they look good. It was great to see the stadium filled with people. Like I said, it is the nicest stadium in the league. But that's just it wasn't going to happen like that.
No, they did overachieve, and I agree with you, especially with the pitching.
While we're on that, I know we're not allowed to do commercials and stuff on here, but I do have a bandwagon for sale. It wasn't only used once and not for very long.
Almost new.
How come the sign says SOB on it? Same old Bucks. I don't think we can sell it. All right, what's on your mind next? What else would you like to bring up here? Let's get off these Pirates here.
Well,
It's a dead horse.
it's not a dead horse. It's a shame. It could be turned around. Like I said, a new ownership or an ownership that has an idea what's going on. They get young players every year. They have early drafts every year. They just don't seem to have anybody in the organization that can recognize baseball talent.
Yeah, and they passed on Mark Cuban, and if they bring Mark Cuban in, let's say somebody like Pujols, okay, and Fielder, they're both free agents. He's going to go out there and sign one of these guys because he wants to win. He built a winner. Look, Mavericks won the NBA basketball championship finally this year. So obviously the guy's a proven winner. So.
Brian, you're tying into a couple things. First of all, I worked with Mark Cuban at Ralph's Discount back in the 70s, and I've been in touch with him. And there's a guy sitting next to me. When he was on another show, he predicted the Mavericks would win.
Yes, he did.
This is beforehand, and the guy is sitting right to my left here.
I did predict the Mavericks would win, and somebody told me I didn't know nothing about basketball.
Anybody we know? Is it anybody we know?
I'm not going to say any names. But yeah, I mean, he's right. Somebody like Cuban, or there's a rumor that Mario Lemieux offered to buy them. I mean, these are guys that are out there to win. Nothing's he's a good businessman. He's making his money. But I'm telling you, as soon as they take away the luxury tax, they'll get rid of the team because that's where all his income's coming from.
Do you really think they'll get rid of the luxury tax, though?
Yes, absolutely. The next collective bargaining agreement, the players' union has the ownership with a ring through their nose and drags them around wherever they want them.
Well, speaking of a ring through the nose, we're going to switch up to the NBA since you're one of the experts on the NBA. What do you think is going to happen with this lockout where the players get basically 57% of the revenue, and that's one of the sticking points here? Do you think they're going to settle that?
Well, recently the players started talking about starting their own league. I'd love to see that. Let them take a shot at that. I don't think they'd like that very much. I think that the lockout will probably go about halfway through the season. But you know what? I don't think that's a bad thing. The NHL lost an entire season to a lockout, and everybody badmouthed them because of that. It was the best thing that ever happened to the sport. Now there's a lot more parity. Every team can contend every year, and except the Flyers. But every team can contend every year, and they're pretty even. That's what the NBA needs. That's what Major League Baseball needs. But That's not going to happen in baseball. The NBA, I think that they'll hold off long enough to basically to break the union and come back and have a lot of parity in the league.
Well, I personally don't think they'll break the union. I just think that they'll change those numbers and make it more equitable for everybody. The union got too strong with these numbers, even though I'm a pro-union type of guy. When the numbers get out of whack in any sport, then you have a problem. So I do think cooler heads will prevail, but I think there is a chance that they will lose the whole season.
What percentage do you think that?
I think it should go to 50-50 like
No,
they...
I mean, what percentage of a chance do you think that there'll be no season? 50-50, 75-25?
I think like about a 40% chance that there wouldn't be a season, just because some of these guys are becoming polarized and they've made a lot of money. When you talk about players that have $100 million, $50 million, and then they want to play in Europe for 10 games, wow. I mean, that changes the whole dichotomy of what the sport's about.
They do make a lot of money, but you know what Patrick Ewing said? We make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money.
Well, we need them. It's in the economy.
I'll tell you what, just like in baseball, just like in baseball and the NBA are the same. Anytime I can sit here and tell you what teams are going to be in the playoffs the next 3 years, there's a problem there.
Yes.
I mean, who can sit here and not tell you what teams are going to be in the playoffs in the NBA the next time they start up?
That's a great point.
You know, everybody knows. Same with Major League Baseball. It's just about the same. I mean, okay, maybe the Rays squeaked in front of the Red Sox this year, but other than that, there's no changes.
Well, baseball does have a couple exceptions. You do have some of these small market teams that every so often do come up, and they've built their system from within. And like you guys were explaining with your theme about a losing culture, when you bring winning managers, winning players from minor league clubs and also from colleges that are successful, it does breed success. And that's where they've been able to do that. Look at how Jim Leyland went down to Florida and won the World Series down there. So, I mean, there are some historical type things with small market teams winning.
Right, just the Brewers this year and Jim Leyland again in Detroit this year. So it is possible, you know. So, like, Pirates can't just sit there and say, "Oh, we're small market," and use that as an excuse. You know, I mean, I'm agreeing with Mike. Until the management or ownership completely changes, I mean, it's beating a dead horse, and nothing's going to happen. It's just going to be the same old story. They feed you this. It's like a politician. You know, they want to get your vote, and then they just change their mind afterwards and do whatever they were going to do originally. So until they change Nutting and they get rid of him, Pirates baseball is basically dead. I mean, I'm distraught. I remember growing up with Van Slyke and Bonds and Bonilla and being in grade school and everybody's, chanting for the Pirates the day of the, World Series or going into the World Series game, excitement. And we had a little bit of that back this year. I was excited there for a little bit myself. Went to a couple games and then our typical 20-game, 30-game losing streak set in, and it's all she wrote, really, on the Pirates.
Well, the Pirates, like you said, you grew up with Bonds and Van Slyke. I grew up with Clemente and Stargell. Al grew up with Wagner and Trainer. The Pirates have had their players up for years.
I have an autographed picture of Pie Trainer. Come on now.
Next to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of, there's in baseball especially, there's the haves and the have-nots, and that's just not going to change until somebody makes a stand. The best thing that could happen would be for all the small market teams to get together and say, well, we're not playing you guys anymore. I mean, seriously. So we'll start our own league. There'd be two leagues. The
haves and have-nots.
The haves and have-nots.
You're on.
That's what they need to do, is take a stand someday and say, there has to be more parity, or we're not fielding a team like that anymore.
Yeah, because I'm tired of every time there's a good player on your team, like the Pirates, like McCutchen, you're wondering how long is it going to be till he's a Yankee? That's like the obvious question, in everybody's mind. Like, how long is he really? And like, if he starts getting bad, you almost don't want him to play too good, because all of a sudden he's not going to be on your team anymore. He's got 40 home runs, he's going to be a Yankee, but before playoffs, so it's just ridiculous.
That I once said that he was playing for pinstripes. But not so much anymore. Andrew McCutchen strikes out more than anybody on the team, leads the team in strikeouts. And midway through the season, it looked like he should have been an all-star. But after they put him on the team, he certainly went downhill after that. The Pirates and Kevin Correa, who I thought should have been an all-star because he was leading the league in wins.
Absolutely.
I don't think he won since, has he? Did he win a game after the all-star game?
Well, again, that was an overachieving Pirate staff, which was great. They were fired up. They had a new manager. He come in there, lit a fire, and they did well. And like our theme has been, that had to come back to earth, and they did. With a hard thud, that was the problem. And they never got back off the canvas again, so that's a problem.
And pitching definitely is the key. I mean, like when you get these young pitchers that come up, they tend to do well right away because nobody has any material on them. They don't know their stuff. They don't know where they like to throw or what pitch when, And then when they see him the second or third time around or fourth time around, they're getting shelled for 12 runs. And you're wondering why. How did this guy pitch almost a shutout in 8 innings last time, and he's getting shelled in the third inning? It's 12-1. I mean, you need quality players, not just new players. The Pirates just will bring in, hey, this guy's new, they don't know him, he'll get we might win a game or two off of this guy. No, you need guys that are going to win 20 games. You need a Verlander, you need to go out there and get the Cliff Lees. You need at least somebody. Give us a face of the organization, anybody. I mean, I was rooting for Manny Ramirez a couple years ago, and that was just a sideshow, really. I just thought he'd look good in a Pirate uniform, and it would be fun to go to the game and yell at Manny in the outfield, bring me to the game at least, buy a $7 hot dog and an $8 beer. So.
Well, part of the problem, Brian, when you deal with having a new face of the Pirates and you spend that money, the problem is when you only have 70 wins, maybe you win 7 or 8 more. So you spent $30 million to get 8 wins. We don't have that core. We don't have that 30 home run guy. We don't have a lot of those things out there. And if you had one starter like your Cliff Lee or all that, what's he going to be able to do to change the team? And that's part of the problem that I see.
You've got to start somewhere, though, is what I'm saying.
But it's not going to make a difference.
Right, I understand.
And you have
that.
a businessman who is entrenched here. He's not going to leave. Right. That's what we have here. So,
money.
Right, we're sort of stuck with this. And if his program of supposedly improving the minor leagues and being a feeder system like some of the others have, it's a wait-and-see attitude. And we don't believe it, basically. So that's where I got to differ with you on trying to get a name player who's at the top of his game.
Right.
And Al, you mentioned earlier about your beloved Pitt Panthers. Do you think they should have fired Dave Wannstedt?
No, sir. I think Dave Wannstedt didn't get a fair shake on that. I think he should have been allowed to stick around because he's a great recruiter. Now, I may disagree with some of his offensive coordinators and how they run the game, but he did set it up for a grind-em-out type of game with a couple receivers who can catch the ball downfield. Now, you have to be able to deliver that ball down there. So do I disagree with some personnel? Yes. But high octane is definitely not happening here. And people are missing that the Pitt defense has been playing pretty well here. They had one meltdown, but they're actually playing a pretty good game. And the offense is just brutal right now.
Not giving them any help.
So,
how many years was Wannstedt here?
3 years? 4 years?
Let me tell you what. I'll take you down to the Federal Building or to the Navy Reserve Center and introduce you to a bunch of great recruiters. I don't want them coaching my football team. Wannstedt maybe he was a great recruiter. He was not a successful coach anywhere. Not in the NFL, not at Pitt. And they left. He shouldn't have been fired when he was. He should have been fired 2 years earlier. The problem with Wannstedt is he could not get the team prepared. You look back at every year that he was there, Pitt lost at the beginning of the year to some team that had no business beating them. AA teams. Akron. Was it Toledo. Buffalo. They always lost to these teams that had no business beating them at the beginning of the year.
Young Bruce Gradkowski had a great game and beat them. Record-setting game. You got to give him kudos for that.
Give him kudos for that. Pitt got him a job in Oakland.
Hey, that's one of my best friend's sons. He deserved that job.
Whatever.
He's been to all our competitors. Cleveland.
He could thank Pitt. He should build him a field house or something.
Oh, I don't think he's making that type of money, but thank you. Maybe we'll have to have him on the show to talk to you about that.
But that was the problem with Wannstedt, is he couldn't get the team prepared, and he was not a during the game coach. He was just not good at that. But he was a good recruiter. He'd go anywhere he wanted and get the people that Ohio State and Penn State didn't want.
Now, do you think Haywood would have done a better job than Graham?
I don't know. I would have liked to have seen him get a chance. That's my thought. I'm sure Mike has to disagree.
I'd like to see him get a chance too.
He held the job for 48 hours.
It wasn't that long, Jim. Do you have your stopwatch on, the coach?
Yeah, I'm in a slightly of a disagreement there. Where I'm not really blaming the coach. Like, I think getting rid of Wannstedt was the right move, and I'm not necessarily sold or not sold on Graham yet. He's kind of just getting his feet wet, and I hate to blame it all on a kid, but the quarterback. I mean, it's so obvious. I didn't think there was a worse quarterback in the NCAA football than Tino Sunseri until I saw his backup coming in play. And then I was just blown away. I felt like I could get up off my couch and have a beer in hand and just throw passes better than this guy, or my 7-year-old son could do it. But I mean, it's just pathetic at quarterback at Pitt. And if you want to win money the rest of the year, my advice is I don't even care who Pitt's playing. Just take the other team. I don't care if it's School of the Blind, Swarthmore, whoever. I don't see Pitt really winning many more games this year. So.
I don't know that Pitt's going to win any more games either, but I'll tell you, you're wrong about blaming it on Tino Sunseri. Right, when you're up by 24 points in the fourth quarter and you lose, that's not on the defense, that's not on the offense, that's on the coaching staff. If your coaching staff can't slow that game down enough to keep a 24-point lead, that's on them. And it doesn't matter how many players. They could put us out there, and we could slow the game down enough to keep a 24-point lead for 15 minutes.
And I tell you what, Pitt is turning into... One good note is they're turning into running back U. I mean, going all the way back to Kevin Barlow, and then you got Shady McCoy and Dion Lewis, and then you got Graham, and I think maybe the best running back Pitt ever recruited is Russell Shell from Hopewell. So he's coming in.
What about Tony Dorsett?
Yeah, he's already
his
doubled.
Predecessor.
He already doubled his output in high school, so maybe he'll shatter his collegiate records as well.
But how much?
He just had an injury, didn't he? Sure. Is it a concussion or a knee twinge?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago he had a slight concussion, but they need him to. He got 8,000 yards, so.
Right. I just watched the game on TV the other day. They had it, and it's a shame that they have no other offensive weapon.
And they got the smallest offensive line probably in all classifications. I mean, that's the littlest offensive line in AAA.
It sure looked like it.
Yeah, and he's still getting the job done.
What kind of offensive line is he going to have at Pitt? Didn't they just draft a kid out of Gateway? Offensive lineman out of Gateway?
Did they?
Or Shady Side Academy, too?
Okay.
They have some big boys on the line.
They're trying to build something for him. Yeah, hopefully they'll get that done. But Pitt for a long time was wide receiver,
Yes.
and then they got some running backs. They just need to combine them now. Try to get like all that at one time. That they're not one of the 25 teams that are going to contend every year. I mean, they just don't have the draw power as far as recruiting goes, and they're between Penn State and Ohio State, who are always going to get the players that they want, instead of Pitt.
Well, one thing I can say, I've never been a Dave Wannstedt fan, and I agree with Magic Mike. He was a failure as anywhere he was as a head coach. But the one thing that Dave Wannstedt had that Walt Harris didn't have is he could call any general manager, any coach, any owner in the National Football League, and they would answer the phone. Walt Harris is still trying to get that number to connect. And Darrelle Revis is a direct result because he had a very average career at Pitt for 3 years, but one phone call from Dave Wannstedt got him not only the first round draft choice, but also an island named after him. So we got to give Wannstedt a little bit of credit for Darrelle Revis at least.
Since we've been so negative on everything, I wonder, do you guys have anything positive on any team that you like? In any sport? I'll just bring it up to you because
Pittsburgh.
Normally just to tell people, we are going to have a call-in show. And all these things that we bring up, some of it is controversial. As you can see, we don't agree 100% with everything that Mike says. Some of us do disagree, and we don't mind being wrong once in a while. But we would like your thoughts, your calls, and we are going to try to have a phone hookup in here so then you can join the fun here. And I'll take it back to these guys on what teams that their favorites are or who they would like and who they think is a good team out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, first, I mean, I'm just not a Steeler fan. I don't like the organization. I don't like the things that they do, so I'm just not a Steeler fan. The Pirates, I've always loved the Pirates. They're just not any good. But the Penguins, your Pittsburgh Penguins this year, if they're all healthy, are the class of the NHL. There's not a team that can touch them if they're all healthy. I don't know if Malkin's going to play again this year. I don't know when Crosby's going to start to play. Kennedy's out with a concussion. Letang's suspended for 2 games. But when you get all these guys back, there's not a team out there that can hang with them. I would personally, right now, guarantee you that they'll lift the Stanley Cup, and we'll have a parade in June. I don't think we're going to have one this January, but we'll have or February, whatever it is. But
February.
We're definitely going to have one here in June.
What, Hines Ward's going to Dancing with the Stars again to get a parade for him? Oh, for the Penguins.
Another one of Mike's favorites.
That's Jim's boy.
Hey, I agree with you here, Mike. Now, I'm not sure if the Pirates have the nicest stadium in all of baseball. That's debatable. But I love the Consol Energy Center, and I love the Pittsburgh Penguins. I agree with you. Speak a little bit about watching a game in the Consol Energy Center as opposed to the Mellon Arena.
Well, I mean, there's nothing to compare, really. There's no way to say, okay, this is good. There's nothing at the Civic Arena or Mellon Arena that compares to anything at the Consol Energy Center. But for a long time, I mean, the Civic Arena was a great place to go watch hockey. Consol Energy Center is much better. And as I said, there's no comparison. But the team itself, we've got so many great players. James Neal came alive this year. He's currently leading the league in goals when he couldn't score a goal last year. Sidney Crosby's the best player in the world, maybe, and if he's not, Geno Malkin is. So, we get these guys back and get them healthy, then it doesn't matter where they play. They could be playing in my backyard. They're going to win the Stanley Cup. On the other hand, if the Pirates were playing in my backyard, I'd pull down the blinds. The one thing I can tell you about the Pirates in PNC Park is I love the $35 all-you-can-eat seats.
Me too.
In fact, sometimes I just sit at the bench right across from them, don't even go into watch the game. I just eat all day. But I sincerely believe the Penguins are the class of Pittsburgh. I don't think that Clint Hurdle's the best manager here. I think Mike Tomlin and Dan Bylsma are both winners, and they're proven winners. And again, Dan Bylsma came into the Penguins. They were on a losing streak. They were not going to make the playoffs that year. Dan Bylsma comes in, a guy who has a winning record. He won every place where he was as a AHL coach or minor league coach, and turned the Penguins around and didn't just make the playoffs, but won the Stanley Cup that year. Mike Tomlin was here for 2 years. He won the Lombardi Trophy, won the Super Bowl. Those are the kind of managers and coaches you want. That's something that you need to get the Pirates. So on a positive note, yeah, I think that the Pittsburgh Penguins are a team that I love to watch. I can't get enough of watching them. I suffer during the summer when they're not playing, but I do have a lot of highlight films that I can watch. And I think, me personally, that's my favorite local team.
Well, Mike, I do agree with you on the Penguins. I'm even surprised at Cook's change in how he plays the game. He was the leading scorer, for 4 or 5 days in the league? So, I mean, that's quite a change in his play. He does ignite the team, and he does play with a lot of emotion. And, Chris Letang came into his own last year, and it's a shame he got suspended here, but they have tightened up some of these boarding calls, and the league has to do some of that. And you do have to protect these players from concussions. I mean, they need some better helmets or something to actually protect them. And I was just shocked that there is no protection in their helmets like with football players. And I know they wouldn't look so nice, without the thin helmet or if they had something bulky. But I'm sure these companies can design something to help these players out because the players are bigger, they're faster. You know, they travel at such great rates of speed, and just their training is so much better than it ever was. It is a danger to these players. Anybody else on the Penguins since we have a...
I mean, I'm with you guys on that. Absolutely, the Penguins is the most exciting show in town, 100%. You know, I mean, as far as the Panthers, I mean, I pretty much wrote them off for this year. But I am excited to see with Pitt how the basketball transition is going to happen with the ACC and playing Duke and North Carolina and various things like that. Be some possibly some favorable matchups for Pitt, I think, in that division in basketball. It's probably a little early to talk basketball, but it's something I'm excited for every year is March Madness, and I'm excited for Pitt basketball already. So that tells you how good Pitt's football team is doing. So. And the Pirates, well, I mean, everybody knows that story. And one thing I do want to give a shout out to is the Shaler High School has 2 losses this year. They're going to make the playoffs. Just go Neil Gordon and the Titans. That's the team I'm high on this year. You mark those words, Shaler will be in the playoffs this year for WPIAL Quad A football.
And again, you know, the coach for the Penguins inherited the most talented team in the NHL, just like Mike Tomlin inherited Bill Cowher's team and his coaching staff. So I'm not sure, you know, how much credit we want to give Mike Tomlin on that. I think you got to equally give Bill Cowher a lot of credit, not only for stepping away, but the reason that he stepped away was as a husband. You know, he stepped away to which probably forfeited him a Hall of Fame career because he probably would have won 3 more Super Bowls, but he stepped away to take care of his dying wife, and I take my hat off to a man like that. And I think it was a good move for Pitt going to the ACC. No longer is Duke and Wake Forest the worst 2 teams in the ACC, but I think it's a good move, basketball, football-wise. West Virginia wanted to go, but they didn't have the academic standards that Pitt had, so touche to the University of Pittsburgh.
What do you think of Jamie Dixon as a coach then? He'll be able to compete with these guys in the ACC with no problem? Because I like him. I think he's super with what he's done.
Oh, I love Jamie Dixon. He's a Sweet 16 coach.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking the ACC, that's cream of the crop. That's like talking SEC in football to me. I mean, you got Krzyzewski, you know, you got North Carolina down there, Roy Williams. I think Jamie Dixon fits right under. He's, you know, he probably looks at those guys as mentors. Fits right into something like that in that division.
Yeah, every time I turn on the Final Four, I never see Pitt. Jamie Dixon, he got a big apple in his throat around that time.
We'll have to work on that a little bit. We'll cut it up into little pieces now with another All-American. What, he got another McDonald's All-American coming up.
Yeah, what happened to the last one he recruited?
I don't see him. I don't know. But, I mean, those are issues that you do have. And he does teach these players to become good players. And
Really?
they take them 4 years. And they do make it to the final 16, like you said.
Well, the one good thing that I would say that he did was he did not change anything that Ben Howland taught him. So, Jamie Dixon, I give him credit for that.
Well, when you have a good formula, you might as well stay with it.
That's right. That's right.
I got one quick question for Mike here. Since you said that Steelers aren't going to make the playoffs, now these next 3 weeks we got New England and Baltimore coming up after Arizona this week. So if you're saying we're not going to make the playoffs, we're already 4-2. You would have to be looking at, if you're saying they have a chance, we got to win this week, right? This is a must-win away at Arizona, especially with New England and Baltimore. New England and Baltimore right there in front of you. You know, those are probably going to be losses. Let's face it. And you know, I mean, I'm just being realistic.
Okay.
I mean, it's a cake schedule. So, I mean, if they win this week and they're 5-2, do you see them making the playoffs?
No.
No. Sticking
He's
with
not changing because you brought that up.
Well, 5-2, you have 2 with Cincinnati, that's 7. 2 with Cleveland, that's 9. One more win, you're in the
9 and
playoffs.
7.
So, what record? Yeah, 10-6. You think that's a playoff record?
That's a playoff
Could be.
record.
I think New England will get in. New England will win their division. Baltimore will win this division. Who knows? I guess Houston will win the South. but I don't think Pittsburgh will be a wild card team. I don't think they can beat Baltimore for sure.
I mean, it's
Maybe
basically
maybe
going
they'll
to come
squeak
down
in as a
to
wild card.
it's going to come down to, I think, them, Houston, the Jets. They already lost to Houston, so now we got that working against us. So you're right there. We lose a tiebreaker. I mean, I see San Diego winning the West, no problem. I see Texans coming out of their funk, finally finishing above 500 and making the playoffs. Patriots in, and then it's going to be basically the bunch it's going to come down to is the Steelers. Obviously the Ravens win our division, but the Steelers, the Bengals, the Jets, the Bills, these teams right here, the Raiders, they're all going to be in the hunt, So it's a tough year, I think, in the AFC, really. I mean,
And the Jets may have the best coach in football, Rex Ryan.
They might. They might not.
We might disagree a little bit with you on Rex Ryan there. So he does have a nice little talk that he gives everybody, and he is a confident guy.
He's entertaining.
Oh,
He's an
definitely.
entertaining coach. But,
And the NFL is a no fun league, so that's entertaining.
And already my coach of the year is Jim Harbaugh.
For the
pat
handshake.
on the back.
Oh, man, he turned that program around, and look what he did at Stanford. That's not easy to win at Stanford. He did a great, great job.
Well, they say he's bringing that college raw mentality, and San Francisco's bought into it, which at the NFL level, with all these prima donnas and the money they make, that's rare, as you know. So he is working some magic there.
Alex Smith hasn't won 5 games in his entire career, and all of a sudden Harbaugh comes in, he's 5-1 or whatever, 4-1. There's something to be said there for sure. Harbaugh, I like both the Harbaughs actually as coaches. They're raw, and they're intense, but they're players' coaches. They're somebody you can relate to. You understand. He understands what you're going through. You understand him. He understands you. You want that to an extent. I personally, I like Bill Belichick. I think hands down best coach in the NFL. If I had to take one, I know so many people hate him, but why do people hate him?
I
Because
loved him
so
at
good.
Cleveland.
He's so good.
Cheater.
That's a good point.
That's why.
It's a weird, awkward moment of silence.
That's why the NFL won't review any incidents that happen in New England games because they have more video on the thing than the NFL does. So we got all that thing.
And is it a shame that Roger Goodell will give the owner Kraft anything he wants? They have no salary cap. They bent over backwards. He burned up all the evidence.
Where'd it go? It's like Nixon in the 17 minutes of tape.
We'll talk
Where'd all
about
the video go?
a team with no salary caps, the Washington Redskins.
Wow.
They have no salary cap whatsoever.
But how successful have they been?
That doesn't matter. It's like they're like the New York Rangers of the football world. But no matter how many guys, they get whoever they want. They pay them whatever they want. They still lose.
They overpay them,
Yeah.
whatever they want.
Was anybody surprised of how well Cam Newton is as a passing quarterback as a rookie?
Yes, because of all the comments they made and how they made such a big thing of showing how bad his delivery was. How's he completing all these passes? It's fantastic. It's like the underdog come up again, and he's a winner. I mean, it is nice to see for him.
Yeah, it was very surprising. It looks like he's going to be a very good quarterback for a long time. Personally, I think the kid that's quarterback for the Rams is going to be the best quarterback in the league someday. They just need to
Sam
find
Bradford.
Sam Bradford need to find
He may be
offensive
benched. He
line.
may be benched in another week or two.
They need to get him a line and a couple of people to throw the ball to, but I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the league eventually.
Now you're making Jim's going to bring up about Big Ben playing without a line, and you're talking about a guy who could be the best quarterback ever. You're getting Jim a little fired up there, and he was being real calm there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the number one quarterback in college football, Mr. Luck, Andrew Luck. What team
think?
you think's going to end up with the sweepstakes? With
Dolphins.
Mr. Luck is going to be the Dolphins, the Colts.
Dolphins.
The Colts seems like a better fit if he would end up there. Be behind Peyton Manning for a few years and then take the reins when he retires, kind of deal. That's where I would see him going, probably. I mean, the Dolphins, yeah, maybe. Could see him there maybe too.
Well, because of the record, if you saw them play last night.
I did.
Okay.
I had money on the Jets. So.
It's not a matter of where he fits in. It's just a
Right.
matter of who gets the number one pick.
You said the
yeah.
lottery,
Right.
so
That's where he's
unless
going.
they trade for
Yeah,
him.
the Colts are probably bound to win a game this year, I think. At some point, they're going to win one. Somebody's going to stumble, and they're going to win one. I don't see the Dolphins winning again.
And the Rams haven't won a game either, but they don't need a quarterback necessarily.
I'm in agreement. I think Bradford is a heck of a ball player.
When you bring up the Colts, that's an interesting question. It's too bad we don't have a call in today. But if you're Peyton Manning and human growth hormones can fix your neck, you take them?
He went to Europe because they don't do it in America. He did travel
He
there.
went to Europe because well, never mind.
Mike, this is a family show in the community of Bethel Park. Luckily, we're just about winding down here, and we wish we could have some call-ins because I'm sure some of you that are watching this show would like to call in and maybe disagree with us or maybe agree with us.
Any predictions on Arizona? It's a rivalry. Wisenhunt maybe should have gotten the job, and Russ Grimm was told that he had the job before Mike Tomlin got hired. So, and I think they got the best receiver in all of football, Larry Fitzgerald. So.
No argument there.
That's the one thing I'm predicting, a Larry Fitzgerald touchdown. I don't know who's going to win, but Larry Fitzgerald will score a touchdown.
Pittsburgh Steelers beat Pittsburgh West. I'm not sure by the score, but we'll win the game. How's that, Jim? I'll go out on a limb there.
Well, I tell you what, I know for a fact that before the game on the 50-yard line will be Larry Slowerfoot, Farrier, and on the other side, Joey Porter trash talking with one another. So,
JPZ.
No doubt about it. What do you think, Mike, since we're on the record here?
I think Arizona's going to be a pretty easy team to beat. If they don't win this week, then I'll be definitely making.
And you say the
guarantees.
Steelers are only going to win 5 games?
No, I said 9 games.
9 games. Okay, just checking.
This is going to be one of them.
Yeah, but this will be one of them for sure.
Okay.
I don't think they can beat Cleveland twice. I don't think they can beat Cincinnati twice. I know they can't beat Baltimore either game.
I'm sticking with Jim on the wins on that. I got to go with Jim
do
on
that.
this.
You
I'm going
do
with
that.
that.
Cleveland Cincinnati sweep.
You do.
Right.
The highest sweep.
And I think we may even beat Baltimore at home if we get some inclement weather here.
You think the weather in Baltimore is much different than it is?
I'm going to have to disagree with that.
Well, being
one,
close to the
Did
river.
you see the first game of the year? Not much has changed that much for us.
I don't remember that. I try to stay positive here. So
hey, when Flacco was at Pitt, he never did well at Heinz Field.
They never gave him a chance.
Right?
that's my point.
They have
Jim,
Tyler
thank you.
Palko in there.
Thank you. It's the river. He's so close to the river that it affects him. Certain people are
He
like
didn't
that.
lose any.
Joe Flacco actually was the best quarterback in Pitt probably since Dan Marino, but he never got to play, right? I mean,
Right. He did well at Delaware.
All right. Well,
We'd like to.
thank you. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you'll come back to see us next week. We'll be here every Tuesday from 7 till 8. We've got Al Levine. I'm Mike Migliori. Smoking Jim Frazier. Brian Weinberg. Well, guys,
Flying
you have
Brian.
any-
I got to give it a nickname. I'm Flying Brian.
Well,
I got my
Brian,
nickname,
Brian.
Al Levine, the talking machine. Just call in, and I'll at least talk to you.
Well, we'll see you next week, hopefully with 3 other guys.
Yeah, Mike is not going to be on the show next week. We have a problem. He will not be allowed back in Bethel Park.